I'm a purse string approved member, but most importantly, I'm a certified financial planner, founder of Blue Ocean Global Wealth, and the mom of 3 kids.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we are so excited to get started today and kind of talk about stay-at-home moms and everything they need to do to financially protect themselves, since that is so important. So the first question that we have is just, sorry, I'm a little frozen over here. So how can you kind of create a financial plan as a stay-at-home mom? What tips or advice do you have there?
So one of the first tips that I have is for many families, they might ask, can one of us afford to stay at home? And since we're talking about stay-at-home moms today, I'm going to focus on moms. But I recognize that either parent can stay at home, but August, we're addressing stay-at-home moms. So I would say the first thing is developing a financial plan to see what does it look like if we're going from 2 incomes to 1. Now, if you haven't had that opportunity, I just want to let you know, not all is lost. It's just by having that opportunity in advance, there's a little more runway for planning that we have. But the first thing I would say is it's true by being a stay-at-home mom, some expenses will certainly decrease. You may not have to pay for childcare. I also recognize that you may be giving up full-time employment, but in this day and age, it doesn't mean that you're giving up all sources of additional income into your household.
Those are some great points. Yeah, I mean, we can work anywhere these days. So sometimes your job is at home. But yeah, and I also like your point that, some of us have the benefit of planning this a little bit more in advance, where other times things happen and, all of a sudden we're stay at home. And so it can be very different, but to kind of look at that plan and what you can do is really important. So what steps can they take, stay-at-home moms, to protect their financial future if they do decide to stay home?
So sure, in working with clients in which the mom and her family has decided it makes sense for her to stay at home, and I'm developing financial plans with a particular focus on retirement, I make sure that I'm very mindful that we are planning for their collective retirement. Mm-hmm. But that does not mean just because she is staying at home that she cannot save for retirement. So perhaps she may have given up her full-time employment to be able to care for children or aging relatives. She may be able to take advantage of a spousal Roth IRA or spousal IRA. And yes, it's to protect her and make sure that she has money in her name for retirement. But most importantly, this is beneficial no matter the relationship status to have some money set aside for retirement. So I make sure I come from this from a point of view that, yes, in this case, if the husband has access to employer-sponsored retirement plan, he should participate to receive that match. Cash flow permitting for someone under 50, they can contribute up to $6,000. If they're over 50, $7,000 because of the catch-up. That doesn't mean they have to do the most, but so I would say saving for retirement is a way in which the stay-at-home mom can protect herself. That's one way.
Yes, and we have talked about that before, but always love to press how important that is. Just to have money under your own name is really important. And your husband can help fund your 401k up to that $6,000 too when you're working at home or just being at home. And so that it helps. Doesn't it help your taxes and things like that to put money in there anyways? So it's really beneficial all the way around.
Absolutely. So I didn't mean to cut you off. It's true. This is the power of financial planning. So let's just say the dad has access to 401k. In this situation, he may be receiving the match as well as tax savings today. If appropriate, it may make sense to do a Roth IRA, and the benefit is some tax-free income in the future. So we're saving money today in tax as well as in the future. The other thing that I think is really important, and I mean, I did this when my kids were little, even though I wasn't a stay-at-home, is insurance. particular focus on life insurance as well as disability insurance. So for women who have not yet left the workforce, I would encourage them while they are still on the company's books to apply for supplemental individual disability insurance. Because let's just say you're working full time and you're like, okay, I want to go to part-time status or I want to stay at home. You want to be able to insure your income at the highest amount. So this is, I know it's disability income, but I call it income protection. That's really important. And then life insurance. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge this. Just because one spouse, in particular the mom, is not working outside of the home does not mean she is not providing economic value. My kids are older, but as an example, I live in the DMV, that's DC, Maryland, Virginia. A calculus tutor can charge $90 an hour. So it's not just my income, but I would even joke. I'd say, you know what? We should order carryout tonight because I don't have the bandwidth to cook this meal and my time should be spent helping my kid with calculus. So if you don't like what I need, just go order carryout. I need to use my time and energy to prepare for this exam. So I can't emphasize the importance that it's not just, you don't put life insurance on the person who's working outside of the home, but somebody who is caring for children, because it is not just caring for the children, but operating the household. I added up all the tasks and I was like, I am worth a lot.
Yes. And that's something you need to recognize because first of all, your job that you're doing is so worthy. It's not like this job that pays nothing. I mean, granted, it pays nothing, but it is so worth so much and you're doing so much for the family. And so that needs to be protected because you're worth so much. I mean, mom's usually running it all, really. She has it all going on. And so, you know, if that was gone, like you said, the house manager's gone, the laundry's gone, the grocery shopping's gone, dinner's gone, calculus is gone. It's all kind of out the window if mom is not there to manage it together.
Absolutely. And just think about taking your children to activities. Okay, you can call rideshare. One rideshare is $30. Just think about that. Every time you're driving your children to activity, you add up everything, you are six figures every year.
Easy. An easy six figures for sure. So yeah, spousal, IRA, and insurance, disability, and life insurance, you suggest, correct?
Absolutely. First disability insurance and then life insurance, then disability. And sometimes, as I mentioned, if you happen to be at your still employed, you want to apply for some supplemental individual disability while you still have a paycheck. Now, it's not that disability is not important. You can't get it after you have a paycheck. But if you're self-employed, you're going to have to show tax returns to prove that you've generated that income to be able to qualify. So if you haven't had the chance to do this because you've already left your job, that is okay. I just always try to make sure that I make people aware of this.
Those are great tips to know, just to do what's before and what's after to get the maximum for your dollar, really, by the end of the day. So then, one of the last things is really communicating with your partner when you're a stay-at-home mom about finances. Can you dive into that a little bit?
So sure, this can be very, very challenging because sometimes, money means different things to different people. For some people, money means power. For other people, it means security, and other people, freedom and flexibility. So if you find yourself in a position where you're like, well, I have to defer to my husband because he earns the money and he makes the decisions, I can't emphasize enough that your voice really matters. And there is a difference between being the decision maker and being included in the decisions. And I'm not saying this to scare anybody, but I get a lot of calls from ladies in their 50s and 60s. They're like, you know what? My husband is really sick. He passed away. And I didn't know that term insurance was so cheap. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but $250,000 is a lot, and I'm grateful for that. But I didn't work out of the home for 18 years. And if I knew that my husband's employer offered 5 times his salary. Like, why didn't we do that? So I'm always very careful with the language I use. Yes, you want to respect and honor your husband's point of view, but
Right.
it is planning for your family and your household.
I definitely agree there. And one of the things we talk about is women are typically widow age. The average age is like 59, 60 years old. So there's a good chance you'll have 10 to 15 years in your life that you're the sole responsible one of your finances. And those decisions that you weren't there for really do affect you now. And that's why, yeah, the sole decision maker, not always, but being part of that conversation is so important, because really it affects you usually the most in the long run, since women live so much longer than men.
Absolutely, absolutely, Sue. I always say every woman, no matter her relationship status, should take an active role in her finances. If she's not comfortable making the final decision, or is in a situation where her husband makes the final decision, I respect that. But I can't emphasize enough, if it's awkward for you, this is actually, it's not meant to be self-serving, how a financial planner can kind of bring you together as a couple. It's not about compromise. It's not, but it's really about understanding each individual's concerns and priorities, and then organizing everything and helping the clients as a couple plan for their future.
Definitely, definitely. I love it. And so, it's staying home is a great option for some families. But as you kind of said, you definitely want to plan beforehand, kind of make those assessments, cover yourself with some insurance, and start planning for your retirement as well. We don't want to leave that behind. But then keep that open communication. I think both with your partner and with your financial professional. So year over year, that you're staying on the right track of your goals and whatever that may be.
Absolutely. And then for some women, I've had some women who've stayed at home when the children are young, meaning before kindergarten, because in some communities, there is no all-day kindergarten. But as the children entered preschool, they were able to maintain their professional certifications and designations. And I tell people, by all means, run this by your tax advisor. If you've taken a course to stay current, you may be eligible for the lifetime learning credit. So you need to communicate with your tax advisor. There was one mom who stayed at home for 6 years. And when her youngest entered kindergarten, even though it was half day at that time, she was able to take courses in the morning. And then when her daughter entered first grade, she returned to the workforce, working 20 hours a week. And then by the time her daughter entered middle school, she was up to 35 hours. So she was able to listen, it took a lot of hard work on her part, but she was able to get right back into it.
Right. And, it gives her almost a sense of self and purpose in a different kind of way. You have all that time. And so that's really smart to have these conversations. I mean, we always say, what you don't know, you don't know. And that tax credit is one of those things. If, keep getting that education while you're out of the workforce, because it helps you just get right back into it. Are there any tips, tricks, pieces of advice you want to make sure our audience hears today before we wrap up?
Well, sure. So this is for advisors, and this is also for clients, consumers. So if you feel overwhelmed and there's a lot of goals, man, we want to retire, you want to have a cash reserve, we need to put our kids through college. You mentioned those protection insurance goals. My goodness, how do we accomplish all this? This is what I do. This little helpful nugget is I make a list of all these goals, and I give the list to each spouse, right, and partner, and I ask them to prioritize. And I say there's no wrong or right. And then as the financial advisor, I find out. So, for example, if the husband is more interested in retirement, the wife is more concerned about education, I tell people I'm going to cover everything on this list, but it would be inappropriate for me to decide what you want to talk about first. I find this to be really helpful, because if she's more concerned about college or he's more concerned about retirement, or vice versa, and that's where, like, I don't want to say fighting, we're going to get them to where they need to be. But if we can help them identify their first three, I feel like we can have a meaningful conversation and help that family work towards their goals.
I love that. And I love that you say, we'll get all your goals in there. It's just which ones do we need to do first? And that really shows that you're prioritizing, you're listening, and that, you know what they want, which is the most important thing in that kind of relationship. So we really thank you for coming on today and providing your expertise. Purse Strings is going to be here all month talking about different things for stay-at-home moms to know, to protect themselves, to budget properly. And so if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out. You can always reach Marguerita Cheng. Her email has been at the bottom the whole time. She's also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals. So you can reach out to her on off of our site, pursestrings.co. And yeah, we'll be here again next week. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Maggie.
All right. We'll talk to everyone soon. Bye.